I didn't come through there. I came in Seattle. Ellis Island. That's where the immigrant usually go through. And I understand that in the early day, many of them, they really suffer. Very hard to come to the U.S. I have been volunteering for over 55 years. I'm extremely fortunate. I thank God every day. I am Ruth Tang. I was born in Canton, China in 1928. My father was the first Ford car that came out, I remember. Have big party all the time in the house, lots of entertainment. It was a great life, good life. My dad's very tall. Dad's with his grandfather, Ba Gong. This was taken in front of our house.
Tell me the story of how Bokgong came to America for the first time.
In China, growing up at that time, there were a lot of people starving, not enough food to eat. Especially you come from a poor family, you're not being educated, you know. I guess Ba Gong heard about the Golden Mountain, Gamsan.
Starting in the late 1840s, thousands of Chinese men journeyed to Gamsan, Gold Mountain, as stories of the California gold rush spread around the world. Many of the men who left for Gamsan were like Bokgong, Ruth's great-grandfather. They came from poor families living in Guangdong with big dreams of making money in America.
So he came in a real tiny boat. I don't know what kind of boat, sampan or something. I don't know. He could have drowned. A lot of people coming here drowned. But he was lucky. He got in here. And I think that he was looking for a job, but he couldn't speak English. So the only job he could have was either work in a farm or washing dishes, cleaning, kitchen. Eventually he got a job working in a restaurant. And then after working here 15 years, he took those money home to China. He bought farmland. And then he sent my grandfather to America. Of course, when my grandfather came, he had little money because the great-grandfather, leased the land out, so he got an income. So my grandfather came here, somehow opened a little tiny, store, selling a few items. It got a little bigger. My grandfather, right here, he's a real wonderful, wonderful grandfather.
Tong Yao Yip was Ruth's grandfather.
My grandfather was a Christian, and I remember he always prayed before we eat every meal. Yeah. And my grandmother was very nice too. I enjoy visiting them. I used to crawl up to the bed. In China, they don't use sheet. They use this rattan, like a mat. My mother came from a very wealthy family. I think my mother's family, they were business people, merchants. She grew up in a family with a lot of privilege, and both her brothers were sent to America and France for education and came back to China, became very successful. She also wanted so much to go to college, but unfortunately, in those early days in China, they did not educate the girl, no matter how much money the family had. In those early days, all the girls were born, but my grandmother just couldn't take it because my mother was hurting and crying, so he unbound her feet. But by that time, it was always a small arch. That always stayed with her. She wore very small size shoes. This is the photo of my mother and my father. Ju Pui Fong. Ju is my mother's name. Deng Sek Pui is my father's name.
But they took on American names.
Doris Tang and Paul Tang.
Paul and Doris met over tea when they were both in college. Doris's friend told Peggy this backstory.
Peggy Strait, I'm Ruthie's younger sister. My father had a girlfriend at that time. The girlfriend didn't think I was a good marriage because of the names or something. So this girlfriend of my mother said, I know someone you should meet. And so they arranged a meeting. And they sat at tea. And my father was just head over heels attracted to her. That when he reached for tea, his hands trembled. So it was quite a match.
Soon, Doris and Paul were engaged, but they would be separated for 4 years. Paul went to University of Washington to study business, while Doris continued her dream to become a doctor.
My mother's dream was go to medical school.
Doris's father at first wouldn't allow her to go to medical school, but then she asked him,
Why don't you send me to college? You send both of my brother. And she said, besides, I'm engaged. I had to wait for maybe 5 years before I could get married. So finally, my grandfather said, all right, I'll give you money, you go to medical school.
After Doris and Paul were engaged, her soon-to-be mother-in-law asked Doris for help.
She said that, I'm all by myself right now, and I really need help. Why don't you come and live with me, keep me company? So my mother, as a Christian, she dropped her dream of going to college and went and stayed with my grandma and took care of her. Did I tell you something about my mother, right? Very loving person. We asked her, say, how was those here with grandma? She just laughed. She said, oh, she's a very nice person. That's all she said.
With a business degree from an American university, Paul Tang entered investment banking. By age 35, he was a successful banker in China. He also held positions as comptroller of City of Canton and head of transportation for southern China.
He was not only a banker, but the comptroller of the City of Canton and had oversaw the transportation system from Canton to Burma.
My father, he must be making pretty good money for him to build his own house like that. And in the area, that's really nice. And that's when we moved to Boise, that's the name of the street. He bought a huge lot, designed the two-story house. That's on my house, from the balcony. Sometimes I stay upstairs, with the servant to keep company. I remember the huge tree with all the white flowers, so beautiful.
And I remember watching every day, following the new bamboo shoot. I go around the garden, I gather leaves, because I was not allowed to pick the flowers. My mother's brother's home, this is the family, my uncle's family, they bought the lot first and built a huge house over there. And my mother said, the lot next door is for sale, why don't you buy that? So he bought that, so we will live right next to, my uncle. And so I used to have a wonderful time playing with my cousin. I still remember the only time my mother really spanked me. One evening, I saw all the light, my uncle's house was on, lots of noisy music and everything. So then I saw my cousin. So I said, what's going on next door? He said, we have a party, lots of good food, why don't you come down? That was quite late in the evening. So I didn't tell my mom, I sneaked out of the house. I was having a good time over there, at the party, and all the food, everything. And so then the servant was looking for me. They found me gone. They were so worried. They thought someone came and stole me. I was talking real loud out in the garden. They heard me. So they were so relieved. They came and got me home. But my mother gave me the spanking of my life. My mother started me on the piano when I was about 4.5, 5 years old. She loved music, but I was not a very good student. I was messing around. I didn't want to practice.
My mother belonged to the Chinese Baptist church. We used to go there and they always sing on Sunday. And I guess my mom must love music because she wanted to make sure that every kid studied music, every one of us.
Paul and Doris Tang had 5 children. Ruth was the firstborn.
I'm the oldest, and then next one is Harry. He and I used to fight all the time. And then after Harry, then it's Peggy, and then Helen, and then Andrew. Andrew's the youngest. My Chinese name is Deng Wan Yin. That one means a cloud. Yin means the swallow and the cow. Peggy is Wan Yun. That means the garden, the beautiful garden. Wan Yin, I don't know what that means. And then Ginman, and Sinman.
The earliest known photo of the whole family is this one, taken at Paul's brother's wedding in Canton around 1936.
I was a flower girl, and this is Peggy. Oh, Helen. My grandma's holding to Helen. And then Andrew's right here, and Harry's over here. So that's all 4 generations.
One day in 1937, Japanese warplanes flew over Canton, threatening to spread the war to the south of China.
The Japanese were coming pretty close to Canton. So my father thought we better get out. So the whole family got out, including my great-grandparents. And we thought that Hong Kong, was occupied by British. They were hoping that the war would end.
And my father decided then and there, he was a very decisive person. He took all the money he could, cash, put in a suitcase, went home, and told his wife that we were leaving. And then we left. We left for the ferry and went to Hong Kong.
And at the time, what did they tell you as kids? Did they say what was happening?
No, they never shared with us any of the anxieties that may have had with this situation. For me as a child, it was very exciting. Now all of a sudden, we were in the middle of a business section, filled with interesting shops, that sell char siu bao, wonton soup, roast duck. We live on the second floor of a storefront building.
I was going to school in Hong Kong. Okay, they sent me to Zhenguang. Yep. The Chinese school, they expect a lot from the student. You had to study all the time. I remember that when I came over here at that time, I could read novel, I could read newspaper, everything. I went to the 3rd grade.
British Hong Kong was neutral in the Sino-Japanese conflict, but then tens of thousands of refugees fled to the island, nearly doubling Hong Kong's population in just a few years.
Pictures of a city in agony.
In 1938, the city of Canton fell to Japanese forces, and by then, the Tang family knew that they couldn't return home.
We all worry. What's going to happen, to China? It was terrible. Where are we going to go? We cannot stay in Hong Kong too long because, very expensive living there. Don't have enough space for the whole family. One room. And that's why my mother suggested, why don't we go to America? My father thought about it. He said, well, it looks like the only way we can go over there would go as a visitor. They would welcome us because we come to spend money, right?
The Tangs took this family photo and applied for a tourist visa to go to the United States.
He asked for a visitor visa, was granted. We were excited. I said, wow, we're going to get to visit America, going to see the World's Fair and everything, Very excited. So the entire family came with Bakong and his wife. This must be his second or third wife. He outlived everybody. I think he lived to an old age. I guess, he's always skinny. Our grandfather was very happy. He anxious to see his son. At that time, there was Exclusion Act. They didn't want any Chinese bringing the family over.
The Tangs could not legally immigrate to the U.S. because Congress had passed the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882, nearly 6 decades earlier. The 1882 Exclusion Act was the first law to significantly restrict immigration to the U.S. and barred nearly all Chinese nationals from working and obtaining citizenship. The Chinese faced rampant discrimination, so were often limited to work in businesses that they could start themselves, such as laundries, restaurants, and grocery stores. For the Tang family, they were already in the grocery business. Paul's uncle, Tang Xing, owned a wholesale grocery store in Phoenix, Arizona.
When my grandfather left America, he gave him his little grocery store. And he married to an American citizen, so was able to stay in this country. And so he was anxious to see his dad. So my father said, good, we'll bring him so you can see him.
Paul Tang bought tickets for his family of 7, plus Gong and his wife. In 1939, they boarded the British ocean liner, the RMS Empress of Asia.
We didn't have a lot of money, but then my dad said, we better come at least second class, better not come third class. I kick us out. It was really something because second class is almost like first class. It was a beautiful trip. I still remember the wonderful time we had on the ocean liner. I have never seen so many different kinds of dessert, and they give it to you all day long if you want it. We just thought that this is a wonderful vacation for us. We stopped in Hawaii. We got out. And my youngest brother was so young that they probably didn't have to pay fare. So by making all of us younger, maybe a couple of them didn't have to pay fare.
A letter from Doris lists their children's birth years as 2 years earlier than what it is on their visa application. Ruth says that this letter proves that she and her siblings' real birth years are actually 2 years earlier than their government birth dates. Your birth year is?
I thought it was 1928, according to the Chinese letter. I came in was 1930.
On the naturalization papers, Ruth is listed as born in 1930 and Peggy in 1933. That's the year that Peggy goes by.
I was born in 1933, so that's the age I always follow. I may have been born in 1932, but I think that's the limit of it.
The Empress of Asia ship arrived in Vancouver, and then, on October 6, 1939, the Tangs were admitted to the United States through Seattle, Washington. From there, they journeyed by train to Phoenix, Arizona, where Paul's uncle lived.
We got into Arizona, so it was very nice. So my uncle let the whole family stay with them for quite a while until my dad could find a place to live. They figured out that we better get a job working with my uncle right away. Then we left Gong with them, and we rented a house in the south part of Phoenix. That's where you could get cheaper housing. Yeah. We rented, I think it was a 2-bedroom house.
It was important for Ruth and Harry to be in school because they were older. And Helen was too young to be the babysitter. So they took me out of school. And that entire year, I did not go to school. It was a magical time for us.
It was a very hard time for my mom. In China, she was waited upon with many servants and never had to do anything. And now, come to this country, she had to learn to cook because they have private chef. My mom was a great Christian. She had, sympathy and love for everybody. We're very fortunate to have a mother like that. I have never seen her really get mad and upset. My dad's very strong. He works hard, and he cares about his family. So we were very fortunate.
What did you think of life in America?
I didn't like it. I want to go back to China. No friends. I miss my cousin. I miss my friend, Hanchi. There were quite a few, people I used to play with on my street. Because I could not speak English, they put a 10-year-old in kindergarten. And it was miserable. Oh my God, the kid made fun of me. And I don't blame them. What's a 10-year-old in kindergarten? I was very tall for my age. I just hated it. So my mother was worried about me. So she hired a private teacher, came to the house every day. And so I got back to my grade in a very short time. But even though when I got back to the second or third grade at that time, the kid was still very terrible to me. So I didn't have any friends at all doing grammar school, even high school. I didn't have any friends. What saved me was my piano. When I was miserable, I went to the piano to find comfort. And that's how I got involved with music. Otherwise, I would not have been a piano teacher at all. Maybe something else, I don't know what. We love to go to visit in the mountain. I guess that was the first car that my dad bought.
Peggy recalls when her father told them to use their American names.
My parents were very anxious for us to assimilate. We're not going to be Chinese. We were going to be Americans. So we lined us up. I said, okay, from now on, you will be Ruth, Harry, Peggy, Helen, Andrew, and your mother will be Doris.
I don't know where they got the idea for my name either. Nobody could pronounce it. The girl called me Luffy. They cannot pronounce the R, Luffy. I've been Luffy for all 4 years.
After 3 years of living in Phoenix, the family made the move to Gilbert, a rural town southeast of the city, where they opened their own store.
My dad was working as a salesman for my uncle. And then he said, there's no future in it working for somebody. They decided they're going to try to find a grocery store. Wise decision. Because when they got the store, there were a lot of food to eat. Fresh fruit, fresh vegetable, all kind of meat, and candy. I've never seen so much candy in my life. And my mother was so happy that we don't have to worry about buying groceries. They were both hard workers. She was at the cash register from morning to night, except little time to, for lunch and dinner, and they opened quite late. And my dad figured out that the most expensive person you hire is the butcher. I still remember we have a walk-in box where you hang half a cow on a hook. He had to carry that into the chopping board and cut those meat into, T-bone steak and chuck steak, and then some of the meat you put it in the pocket to make hamburger. Peggy and I used to make all the hamburger. Friday night would be start making hamburger for the Saturday. A lot of customers would be coming. And so I don't eat hamburger. In Gilbert, he rented the store, but next to the store, there's an empty space. So like a small shop, but it was also empty.
Next building, that's our house. This is where the grocery store was, where Sideburns is, and right next door, where the flagstones are, was where the Tang family lived. That window there, that's Mom and Pop's bedroom, and this other door, that's where Peggy, Helen, and Ruthie slept.
Remember, we have a large living room, and there was a very small toilet, one toilet in the kitchen, And then there's two bedroom. My dad probably make the store into a house. That's what he did. And so one bedroom for my mother and dad and the baby. And then all the girl, we stay together in one bedroom and one small closet. But we ate like a king. We ate the best food. My mother is such a good chef. She make chicken, she make mushrooms, she make shark fin soup. You name it, she could do it. The best food you eat at a restaurant, my mother could cook. It was just a one-street town. Right across from us is a movie theater with an empty lot. And every Saturday, and so they would have cowboy movie most of the time anyway, so I'm not interested. There were 3 Chinese grocery stores. My neighbor, the Wong, down the street on the left side was Sam Lee. I remember the name. The Wong has a girl, and she was my friend. Yeah, I do have one friend now that we mentioned it. Yeah. The only person I usually fight with is my brother. I got along beautifully with the rest of them. The reason was that he was so spoiled. My mother would give him the best of everything. He would not eat it. Got so upset with him, and I was much bigger and stronger, so we got into a fight. I'd always win. He would ran away from me, climb up to the tree. I remember one time we were fighting so badly that I got water pouring him inside the house. It's just tile house, there's no carpet in it. And so that one more time for my dad to come home, so clean up the whole house. And my mother came back, well, it's fine.
After Japan bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States entered World War II. Soon after, lawmakers realized the need to improve relations with China. In 1943, the First Lady of the Republic of China, Chiang Kai-shek's wife Sun Mei-ling, in an effort to fundraise American support to the Chinese military, addressed Congress.
We in China, like you, want a better world, not for ourselves alone, but for all mankind, and we must have it.
By the end of 1943, Congress finally lifted the Chinese Exclusion Act, but even then, only a very small number, a quota of only 105 Chinese people, were allowed to immigrate every year to the United States.
Very hard to get under that quota, but how it happened was that my father got to know Senator Hayden and Representative Ellis. But I just remember that every holiday, he would dress up, he would bring the biggest turkey and take it to their house, went inside, talked to them, and then came out. We were waiting for them outside in the truck.
It took several years of petitioning, but on March 15, 1948, the U.S. Senate passed a special bill which permitted the Tangs to stay. It read, Tang Sik Pew, his wife and 5 minor children, to stay in the U.S., deducting 7 numbers from the first available Chinese immigration quota. Paul and Doris learned the news when a Phoenix reporter arrived at their store.
They say, congratulations, you're going to be citizen. My father couldn't believe it because, the first 2 times they didn't get any answer from them.
To make their new status official, the Tang family drove 2 hours south to the border's custom office in Nogales and crossed the border from Mexico, changing their status from visitors to permanent residents.
Turn in some paper and turn around, and we had the right to become citizens. It was quite remarkable.
Later on, when I was of age, I took my test. When I passed my test, I became citizen. Father worked hard, and during the war, there's many items were rationed. Sugar and even, flour, you could allow to buy so much. My dad made a lot of money. And so he decided that he's going to retire pretty soon.
In 1950, Paul Tang bought a home at 3459 West McDowell Road in Phoenix, Arizona. It was on a 40-acre parcel of land on what used to be a cantaloupe farm. The Tangs sold a plot of the land for a grocery store and then rented storefronts for various shops, including a drugstore, barber shop, beauty parlor, bakery, and a restaurant.
With the shopping center came with that nice little house what to live in. So we didn't have to live in back the grocery store anymore. We have our own house.
And this is the high school.
I went to Gilbert High School. I didn't spend much time with anybody much. I didn't have any close friends. I rushed home to practice my piano. And I was a wonderful teacher, Bertha Kirkland. She was so good to me. But I had to take a bus to her house because there's no piano teacher in Gilbert. She was a single lady, no family. But she was an excellent piano teacher. And she treated me like her daughter. Sometimes after a lesson, then she would give me lunch. Sometimes she would drive me all the way home.
Through her piano teacher, Miss Kirkland, she also met her vocal teacher, Hugh Neville Smith.
He was in Arizona for his health because of the weather. And he was the coach for John Sutherland. He taught me vocal technique that no college professor knew how to do it. When you go to the high note, you close your mouth, you let the sound coming from your head. It's the head tone. I learned that from him, but no other teacher in college all these years taught me that.
In 1946, Ruth enrolled at Arizona State University at Tempe with a major in music.
I got a scholarship, but my dad drove me to school every day. Music is my companion. When you don't have any friends, what better than have beautiful music with you? When you go to college, you get people from all over. And so I had a great time when I was in college. I was very involved. I was in the concert choir, and I was a soloist many times.
In 1950, Ruth graduated from ASU and received the Mu Rho Alpha Award for Most Outstanding Music Student.
Every year, the United States welcomes hundreds of these young people who come from the far corners of the earth.
At the University of California, Berkeley, Ruth stayed at the I House, the International House.
Someone told me that you should go to Berkeley, you'll have a good time. So I said, why not? There's very few girls there. Most of them were boys. I mean, you could have a day every day if you want to. And so I had a wonderful time. I never go out with a modern choice.
Yes, there are good times to be had, but there is work and study too.
Really, the music department's lousy. I said, I gotta get out here. Even though I'm having a wonderful time, I gotta get out here.
Peggy went to UC Berkeley as well, with plans to become a doctor, but she ended up on a different path.
I registered as a pre-med. First class I took was first semester calculus. I remember sitting in class and the professor was explaining something that sort of like the basic concept of calculus. It was like, I was so excited. But after that calculus course, I said, no, I'm going to be a mathematician.
Peggy got her PhD in mathematics from NYU and became a professor at Queens College of the City University of New York. In 2013, she published Unbound, a book of her memories of the Tang family, immigrating from Canton and growing up in Arizona.
I went harmony. I went beautiful music. So the beautiful music really come from the classical music. Your pianist is like Chopin. Chopin have written so many wonderful compositions for piano. But Chopin, Beethoven, Haydn, Mozart, all those are good. Always classical, nothing else. I thought that I really should get serious about getting all my credentials together so I could apply to Juilliard. That's my dream.
After 1 year at Berkeley, Ruth enrolled at University of Southern California to get her master's in music.
When I was at USC, the Chinese group, they have a piano, so I was just, messing around with the piano. And then Lot walked in. He was not a student, but he came in and he stood next to the piano and listened to me play. I don't know who he was, okay? He's not much older. He's only 2 years older than me. Anyway, the next morning, I got a phone call from him. He said that he was a trustee at the Chinese Presbyterian Church. He wanted to take me to church. I said, well, sounds like he's a nice guy. I might as well go to church with him. I usually don't go out with any boy more than twice anyway. So I thought, all right, I'll go to church with you. So I went to church with him. And then after church, he took me to a Chinese restaurant for lunch. And then guess what he took me to? The cemetery.
Unique and magnificent is Forest Lawn Cemetery.
But he loves art and beautiful things, and he knows that I probably will enjoy it.
Of lovely walks, churches and chapels of rare peace and beauty.
So he wanted to show me all the beautiful art pieces over there. But I was not interested in getting married. No, because my dream is go to Julia, you know. He'd been calling me quite a bit. And then because my mother was ill, I told him, I said, I had to go home because to take care of my mom. So I left. This letter was written to me on October 28. At that time, I left California, went home to Phoenix, Arizona. I really didn't want to get serious with any boys. Anytime when I feel that someone's keep on calling me too many times, then I take off. But he kept on writing me letters. And I like this particular one. It said that, dear Ruth, I just finished reading your letter of October 22nd. It was magnificent, a completely uninhibited exposition of your heart and mind. Courageously given, honest, brilliant, spoken with force and conviction. Just as two painters painting the same landscape will give dissimilar vision of it. Water poured into different colored glasses will take on the color of the cup which it filled, even though it be the same water in them all.
Do you mind skipping to the last page?
That's
It does go on quite a bit, doesn't it?
It's hard to read his handwriting, you know. It's certainly God's will that we should love and help one another. Talent, intelligence, and power are all blessings from God, and they should be used for God's service and for humanity. I have to say, every day I feel my heart being closer and closer with you. You mean a lot to me, a lot. Okay, so it was a big, long letter. He flew down to see me all the time, you know, because I wasn't up there anymore. I was home. I didn't fall in love with him quite yet, you know, but he kept on coming to Phoenix to see me. Mm-hmm. That was really something because, you know, he was working, very busy, but he took time out, you know, and constantly, you know, flew in. My parents liked him. My mother liked him a lot, I remember. Yeah.
And one day he came with a ring.
Yeah, I just couldn't say no then. I thought about it, you know. I said that, you know, he really is a wonderful and a very, very caring person. I mean, most boys, you know, you think they would fly down to see me like that? No, I don't think so. And also, he's so handsome. He's the most handsome one of all.
What made Locke special to you?
Well, he's very loving and he's very giving. And he helped me with my work. He supported everything I did. You know, very hard to find a man that would do that.
Locke G. Ding was born January 21st, 1926, in San Francisco, California. He was the second son of Chuck Sing Ding and Mei Ying Kwan. He had 3 older sisters, Layla, Gracina, Pearl, and 2 younger sisters, Elizabeth, known as Betty, and Isadora, also known as Lonnie. His older brother John G. Kang died when he was only in his 20s.
John, the oldest one, after he graduated from Stanford, brilliant. I just heard that he went vacationing and the car turned over and he passed away. So then now, only one son left. They put all the attention on this one kid, poor kid. And he was very sweet, very easygoing, a kind of temperament. He allowed them to just tell him what to do, and he just did it, Came back from school, then had to go to Chinese school. Every single day, Our Chinese school over here only once a week. Like my kid, that's why they didn't learn anything. By the time he came home, it's really late. And that's every single day.
Locke also had an older half-brother named James, known as Jimmy. He was Chuck Sing's eldest son, born from Chuck Sing's first wife before he married Mei Ying.
Locke's older brother, very nice. He was much older than Locke and was very good to him. He took care of him, gave him bath, and took him to play. Locke really loved his older brother.
And you met his mother, Mei Ying.
Yeah,
What was she like?
Very nice lady. I like her. Very stylish. First time I met him, I said, wow, my gosh, she's still wearing big high heels.
Locke's mother, Quan Mei Ying, was born in Guangdong Province in 1891, the daughter of salt merchants and owners of salt ponds. She was the fourth child of Reverend Mao Luong Quan, who traveled regularly to Vancouver for business. He also did Christian missionary work in his village, according to the Ding family history. He recognized the equality of women, so he gave Mei Ying a good private school education and encouraged her to study Western medicine, when very few women in China went to school.
Her father was almost like a minister, and he wanted this very smart girl to become a doctor so he could take her to the village to help out the poor.
Ding Chuck Sing was born in 1874 in the county of Dungun, about halfway from Hong Kong to Canton, to sugarcane merchants. Chuck Sing's children recalled in the family history that their father was a very bright and ambitious young man. He aspired to the highest position that was then available, an imperial official of the Qing dynasty. At the age of only 20 years old, he was among the youngest candidates to win Zhongyuan, the highest scholastic award given by the emperor, and was awarded a diplomatic portfolio. He arrived in California and became principal of the Tsinghua Chinese School in Sacramento. In honor of his service at the school, Chuck Sing was presented with this award. By 1911, the Qing dynasty ended, and the emperor was no longer in power. According to Mei Ying's naturalization record, Chuck Sing and Mei Ying married in 1918. Both of them studied herbal medicine in China, and then moved to California the following year. They opened this herbal office on 1049 Stockton Street in San Francisco. They named the office Kin Kwang Yak Fong, meaning Heaven and Earth Medical Office.
She not only took care of the herbal medicine, but she also practiced as an MD without license, because she is advertising in the newspaper as a herbalist. But when she treats a patient, she has both the East and West to help her. And that's why she did extremely well.
Chuck Sing also served as president of the powerful Chinese Six Companies in 1926 and 1927. Locke J. Ding attended University of California and graduated from the College of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. He completed postgrad studies at the Metropolitan Medical School. He was an associate with Dr. Richard R. Fong in Oakland. Dr. Fong was also his brother-in-law through his older sister, Grisina. Just before meeting Ruth, he opened a medical practice in Norwalk, California in 1951. 2 years later, on April 26, 1953, Ruth and Locke were married in Phoenix.
My mother was really happy, I made a doctor, that's what she wanted to be anyway. So it was a big wedding at a church.
You told me my grandmother, Christina, helped you with your dress.
Christina was down there too, and she helped me with my dress. It was kind of loose. She said, I fix it up for you. It was wonderful, wonderful. I could not dream of anyone that could be so good to me and so helpful.
1 year later, in 1954, Ruth and Locke had their first child, Meilon. Mother-in-law Mei Ying visited after she was born.
She was very nice to me. She came in the hospital to visit me, say, "Oh, don't worry. When you have daughter, you're gonna have son." I said, "I really didn't care. I didn't care to have a son. A daughter just as good as a son." For me, a daughter is better. For her, I guess, is to have a son. You know, it's important because that's the end of her family, not the only son. But I said, "Gee, I better shut up and not say anything." Meilana is too smart for her own good. She always liked to do what she enjoyed doing. But the thing is that, you know, when you're in school, you had to pay attention. And the teacher said she was walking around. So I really worry about her, you know. So then one day I sat down with her. I said that, "Meilan, if you could have something, what would you like to have? Anything in the world, what would you pick?" She said, "Oh, I want a horse."
My parents took me to the pony ride at Irvine Regional Park, and I was in heaven. I would say to my parents, "I want a horse, I want a horse, I want a horse."
You know, you pay attention and you make good grade. Then I might think about maybe in some way let you take on a horse. And then she changed overnight.
I got straight A's, and I got my first horse.
I said, "Oh my gosh, now what am I gonna do?"
Lessons to learn how to train my horse. And so I had him for about 2 years. I showed my horse at the local horse shows. The worst thing about being the oldest child is that you have the highest expectations. When I look at the way I was parented versus the way they parented Claudia, oh my gosh, it's a world of difference. Claudia got away with murder. She got away with murder all the time.
I am Claudia Ding Mueller. I have been fortunate to be the second daughter and the middle child, and it's been real good for me. August 27th, 1958, I was born in a car on the way to a hospital. I was born in the city of Whittier. So when Mom told Locke, it's time, he went, "Oh, there's plenty of time." And it was in the middle of the night. He didn't want to get out of bed. So finally, it's morning, daylight. Locke, it's time to go. It's time to go. The baby's coming. They're driving to the hospital, and there's a detour. There's a detour to the hospital. And they're driving around the detour, and time's up. I was born in the car. We all got to be the baby, Mom's baby, for at least 4 years because we're spaced 4 years apart. My early memories are just she and me being home alone while Meilon was already in preschool. What I remember most is being in the car. Mom drove a station wagon and going along with her on errands. There were regular trips to the laundry where she would have my dad's shirts laundered and pressed. And there was a man, he would look just like Mr. Clean.
Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grime and grease in just a minute. Mr.
He wore a skin-tight white t-shirt and pants, and he was built, and he had a shaved head, and he was just so nice. I was always cheerful and outgoing. Always cheerful and outgoing. I loved to play. I was taken to the same ballet studio that Meilon started at, which was a serious ballet.
My mom started me in ballet when I was about 4 years old. And I studied ballet and modern dance all the way through high school.
So my mother found me a studio in Santa Ana that was owned and operated by a husband and wife who were Hollywood entertainment bigwigs. I did ballet, I did Hawaiian, so on and so forth.
I am Larry Ding, and I am the eldest son of Dr. and Mrs. Locke Ding. I was born August 15th, 1963 in Orange, California.
Larry is a pretty nice kid. He has a really sweet temperament.
The home had a living room where we spent a lot of time learning to play music. My mother taught music lessons there, or we played a lot of games with my father, a lot of tag and a game we called Spider in the Dark. We could go, "Dad, let's play Spider in the Dark." We'd turn all the lights off. We'd have to crawl on our hands and knees, belly up like a spider, and try to attack each other in the darkness in the living room. One day, I was just going through the phone book and I saw a picture of a fishing rod attached to a fish. I had no idea what that was. I had never heard of fishing. My father said, that's something we can do together. And so my father took me down to Newport Beach, and the very first trip out, he put 2 hooks in my line, and I caught 2 mackerel. And then pretty much I was hooked. And that became a lifelong passion. So when I have free time and my family allows it, I go fishing.
If you could take him fishing, I'd be so happy. He was good, you know, he always did well in school, studied, and very appreciative of the parents. You know, he always wrote me wonderful letter. Contest.
I think I was in first grade.
A contest.
Because this is what Larry writes. He says, my mother is special because she is the pulsating energy of love, kindness, and light. She is the pulsating. I thought that was very good. 11 years old. She is the outlet to my heart and soul. I love my mother very much.
My name is Boise, and I'm the fourth and youngest child of Locke and Ruth Tang. I was born in 1967 in Orange, California.
These are photos of me as a baby.
But I was very close to my mom. I loved going to the grocery store with her, which is probably one of the reasons why I developed an interest in cooking and food. I loved to push the shopping cart with her. It was a favorite deli, Benji's Deli. They had great rye bread. They had great matzo ball soup.
That's when I first started skating, around 9. So that's when my mom was
9 years old.
Yeah.
Very young when he started ice skating.
So one of the group activities was always go skating, you know, maybe once a year during the Christmas holidays. I never really enjoyed it. I was always complaining about, oh, do we have to go again? I think she thought that, you know, maybe this might be a good activity for me for the long run and I might really enjoy it. And she was absolutely correct. So my mother was very prescient in knowing what might be a suitable activity to introduce to her children that they might really gravitate toward. Skating was one of those. And so she signed me up for some group lessons. After a few months, you know, I made a lot of progress and all of a sudden I started enjoying it.
When he first entered the competition, that's when he got interested. And then he went to win.
In the 90s, Boise won the U.S. Skating National Championships 4 times, 1996, 97, 99, and 2000.
For a while, I was very interested in ballet, formal ballet training. And so that was a lot of driving to LA for those ballet classes. And then she also drove me to Long Beach for piano lessons for a couple of years.
Honestly, I don't remember her sleeping much. Probably around junior high, I started to become fairly serious about tennis, but I accompanied my brother to tennis lessons, and so we both took tennis lessons.
Tennis lessons to violin lessons, piano lessons, until I became the age to drive. She drove us everywhere. She really did it without a smile, but always in a rush. And so many times goes, oh, we're gonna be late.
She was also dropping Milan and I off at the ice skating rink and at the horseback stables. That was a lot of dropping off.
And she never got in an accident. I can't recall a single accident she was in.
They were taking all kind of lessons, you know, from ballet to tennis to, you know, you name it, you know. I want to keep them busy, okay? And when you have 4 kids, you'll be a full-time driver too.
The Ding children kept enormously busy with many hobbies. Meilon had horse riding, piano, and ballet, but she also got a marksman first-class rating from the NRA. Both Meilon and Claudia participated in debutante balls and beauty pageants, such as Miss Teenage Southern California.
It was very exciting to watch her rehearse, to perform. I saw the application box at the department store in Newport Beach, and I took it and I filled it out and I sent it in all by myself. They announced the 12 finalists, and I was one of them. And I'm jumping up and down, and Mom sees me jumping up and down, and Mom's jumping up and down.
Boise kept busy, from playing tennis to hosting gourmet dinner parties with his friends.
Boise was an outstanding friendship. When Boise was on vacation, I remember they sent someone to my house. I was living in Newport Beach, and they said, Donald Byrne wants Boise's recipe.
As a teenager, Boise worked for Donald Bren, the billionaire real estate developer and owner of the Irvine Company.
Donald Bren loved Chinese chicken salad, a dish that I think I found from one of the Chinese cookbooks my mother had at her home.
I remember when I was quite young, my father went to China for about a year and a half and learned acupuncture arts in Canton. And he even sponsored his acupuncture teacher to come to the United States and give him further instruction. He was the first acupuncturist in Orange County. I remember working in his office where basically I would follow him around. And then he was such in high demand, it would be common for him to see 40 to 60 patients a day, where I'd bring the trays of acupuncture needles and I'd be in charge of positioning for him, put them in his finger so he wouldn't have to spend the extra seconds to pick up the needles from the tray. I put it right into his hand, hopefully without poking him.
Here's probably the earliest picture of all of us, though, right there.
Yeah.
All of us together.
Larry's 4 and Boise is just 18 months, not quite 2 years old.
They all had piano lesson. I start all my children with the piano, learn how to read music first. From there, they go on to whatever they want to do.
My parents have pictures of me playing piano when it looks like I'm 3 years old. So my mom started me out on piano. I played piano all the way until the time I was in high school and competed in some competitions. And ultimately, it wasn't my passion. It was really my mother's passion. But I still enjoyed it and I had some success. And it certainly prepared me to understand music in all its forms.
My mother, being a lover of music, made sure that music was part of our family's life. And every child, probably around the age of 8 to 10, started an instrument, started with piano, and then I changed the flute for about a year, and then finally changed the violin. It's the most like the human voice. It's probably the instrument where you can emulate human voice most closely and easily. And the violin, I really did enjoy quite a bit, became pretty proficient at it. I became concert master of the junior high chamber orchestra, as well as a high school orchestra. Even when I went to college, I actually had a partial scholarship at Brown University in Performing Arts Violin.
I always had to have my fingernails clipped right before lessons. Not my favorite exercise, but I'm so grateful I did have that background because later on I went on to play clarinet and it was helpful for my dance training and figure skating training in the future.
Even as Ruth raised her children, she also taught piano.
I thought that I should have my own money. Another reason is that I should, give back what I learned. Locke was very helpful. He made a big sign for me, put it in front, and quite a few of the neighbors came in for lesson.
She had one particularly memorable student, Catherine Ledesma.
Her mother told me that she's kind of blind. Can you help her? Never taught somebody, with a problem with the eyesight. I said we could try. She won many contests, one after another. She has a special talent for music too. So I was lucky to have her as a student.
Around this time in the 1960s, Ruth became involved in what many considered a pipe dream at the time, building an Orange County-based performing arts theater.
Group of music lovers, we got together. We said that we're tired of driving all the way to Los Angeles for a concert. We should have a concert hall here in Orange County.
By 1973, Ruth was the first membership chair of the Orange County Cultural Center. The organization was later renamed Orange County Performing Arts Center and would eventually become the Cedar Storm Center.
We moved to Santa Ana. There were very few Chinese families around. They felt that they were not being accepted in the community, and so they worried about the children. And so then Locke and I said, why don't we form a social club? And that's why we started the Orange County Chinese Cultural Club. The whole idea is that we want to do whatever we can to to give back to the community, to be a help to the community, not a burden. And Locke was behind that. We are co-president.
My high school, I was one of 3 Asians in the entire class. Very different from today in Orange County. We're probably more like 20–30%. I remember at first there were maybe about 20 families who shared the same idea to try to preserve culture.
We thought it would be fun to have them start in the little children choir to just sing together. And I was so surprised to find out that so many of these Chinese kids, they are so talented.
Mom would teach us how to sing songs, do, re, mi, songs from the Song of Music, whatever, you know, so we had a chorus.
Then we start having a Chinese Mandarin class and a Cantonese class, but we only have those classes 1 time a week. It's not like in San Francisco when Locke went to Chinese school, it was every single day. It was much easier, you know, to speak to each other in English. So the kid never heard Chinese at home. So none of my kids could speak Chinese.
Boise.
It was in the newspaper too. Every year we have a Chinese New Year
party.
And so the newspaper give us a lot of publicity. So they came to the house.
We moved to Newport Beach for my first grade. And there were maybe like 3 other Asian families in my entire grade. My father made it a point to take us to Chinatown at least once a month, and oftentimes for dim sum and to see Chinese movies, kung fu movies.
And every Christmas, the Tang siblings would bring their families to visit their parents back in Phoenix.
When my parents were living, it was just something that we do every Christmas, no matter where we were.
I still remember my mom, before go home each year, she would start making dim sum, and she would put them all in the freezer. So when we arrive at home, she would pour them out, and we have cashew bao, everything.
I mean, she makes the most delicious dim sum, you know, and jiong. On the day that each of us leave, she would cook that person's favorite dish.
In Orange County, one of the first big events that the OCCC produced was a headdress ball called Emperor's Court.
In 1976, the co-chair with me was Ellis and was sponsored by the Orange County Chinese Cultural Club and the San Gabriel Valley Chinese Cultural Association. 1,000 people came to that event, hit the jackpot. That was my first event. They weigh like 25 pounds, maybe 20 pounds. It's heavy, probably 10 headdress. Plus we have some music and make a really beautiful program. And one of them is Frank K, but he was a fashion designer. He came over, I think, from the Philippines. So I was so happy that he won. He's the one that designed this headdress.
And now I would like to welcome Mario J. Machado.
Ruth also organized numerous Moon Festival events as a leader of the OCCC. Another big fundraiser was the Dragon Boat Festival at Disneyland.
Thousands of people came, and was all done by different Chinese organizations.
In 1982, Ruth helped organize a fundraiser for our chamber orchestra to go to China. Phyllis Stiller and Bob Hope hosted the Mandarin Allegro Ball. It was a fashion show, but also a historical review of Chinese figures from the Zhou, Han, and Tang dynasties all the way to the Qing dynasty. Some of the costumes were borrowed from the Embassy of Taiwan.
Locke bought a few of them from Hong Kong, but the rest of them we brought from the Taiwan Embassy.
In 1987, Ruth and Locke wore the costumes for the Newport Beach 714 magazine, in an article highlighting their contributions to the Orange County arts and cultural scene.
Got to know so many wonderful people. All became my friends.
I was very much involved. Every time Ruth was involved,
Ann Wu first met Ruth over tea in the early 1980s.
California, but nobody wore hats. But Ruth, very distinctive, sitting there. And then right away, she invites me to a picnic.
It was a picnic for the OCCC, the first of many events with Ruth.
It was a family picnic, and I remember Boise, her son, had baked a flourless chocolate cake, and Ruth always did everything with elegance. When I'd have a potluck at my house, Ruth said, I'll bring fruit. And I said, oh yeah, bring fruit, Ruth. So she'd bring fruit, but not just fruit. No, she'd bring it on a silver platter with tongs and everything. And I said, oh God, Ruth, I thought we could use paper plates. She would invite me to these meetings, and then I guess I remember one time when I didn't show up at the meeting, the next time I saw her, oh, we elected you president. I said, oh, that's what I get for not showing up at a club meeting.
Ann Wu was president of OCCC with her husband Ben from 1995 to 2005, and again from 2016 to 2018.
Ann Wu, she's wonderful. She and her husband helped me so much. She always has wonderful idea to share with me, and she's a person I could depend on. If she says something, she gets it done.
Through Ruth, the club just branched out. She is the glue. She just had a strong sense that we needed to contribute back to the community.
Around 1980, when we were still in Huntington Beach, my daughter attended at high school, Marina High School, has another Chinese girl friend. She introduced my daughter to attend a Chinese folk dance group. And I was so impressed with this group who sponsored this dance group. This is the Orange County Chinese Culture Club. I met Ruth Tang, I met Lock Tang, attend many events, volunteering ever since. Then I was in the family of Orange County Chinese Culture Club.
Frank Sun was co-president with Nelson Fong from 1988 to 1990, and then co-president with Ruth from 2013 to 2016.
My wife passed away, now it's almost 6 years ago. And Ruth was very nice, take me around, give me rides to places.
I'm on the phone all the time with him. Anytime I have a problem, I always call Frankson. He will listen to it, and he's very sympathetic, It's very good to everybody.
She inspired me to go on. It was very negative, discouraged. Bruce and a few other friends really helpful to get me going. And now, 6 years after that, I'm still going.
I was introduced to the Orange County Chinese Culture Club by a friend of mine, Mary Kester. And she said, I'd love to invite you to the luncheon. And the way she looks with her head, and she has a presence. She comes into the room, and then said, oh, there is the president. We became lifelong members as also right away because we really liked it so much. We were always looking forward mostly to the luncheons. Once a month, I would not miss a luncheon because I was a chairman, so I was doing it all the time.
Madonna's another wonderful friend, and she is a very outstanding writer and different things. She's very smart and very kind.
I'm honored to be her friend, and I can only say wonderful things about her. And we all want to be like Ruth.
We are at the Seekerson Center, the Orange County Performing Arts Center, and we are right in front of the theater.
In 1974, the organization then known as the Orange County Cultural Center fundraised for a concert. President Tom Moon found an empty dime store to use for free, but there was a catch. It did not have any electricity.
And so we said, oh, golly, what are we going to do? Then someone said, well, I guess you use some candles. I said, yeah, candle. And the place was just so beautiful. You at night, you couldn't see the ugly building. All you saw was the beautiful candlelight.
It was the beginning of an annual fundraising event every December, known as the Candlelight Concert.
But that concert was so successful, they want to do it again and again and again. And each year it gets better and bigger, with more money to support it. And so finally, the one that I read was over 2 million. It was Eileen Redfield. She was the one. She was driving by on the freeway and saw this empty land right here. And she said, wouldn't that be wonderful if we could have our music center there?
The parcel of land in Costa Mesa was owned by the Segerstorm family, right next to the South Coast Repertory Theater, built in 1964.
Henry immediately loved the idea because he already had a shopping mall right there, and the theater was here. And then you add on a concert hall that make this place really wonderful, right? So he immediately said, yes, he will donate. So it was 5-acre land they donate. Once we got the 5-acre land, then the money started coming, because now you have a site. You need to have some good friends that support you. And I guess that's some of the catch too. Not just hard work, but you do have some good time.
Ruth organized many fundraisers for the Orange County Music Center, including one at her home in Newport Beach. The LA Times featured one of these fundraisers at Ruth's home, with more than 420 guests in attendance. Ruth remembers the enormous concert organ set up in her backyard, as well as a silent auction and a live auction, which raised tens of thousands of dollars for the Orange County Music Center.
We raised quite a bit of money. I remember we sold 2 Mercedes and something they were donated, right? So it gave us probably $20,000 to $25,000 for each car.
The Orange County Performing Arts Center opened in 1986.
So finally opened it up. It cost about over $50 million, a lot of money.
The 3,000-seat facility was the second full-scale opera house in California. It brought world-class musicians, Broadway shows, ballet, and opera to what is now Orange County's largest arts nonprofit organization. In 2011, it was renamed the Segerstorm Center for the Arts.
I'm just so happy to see it now, because they're able to bring the very best from all over the world, and they have an outstanding facility.
In 2022, the center held its 48th candlelight concert, raising over $40 million in nearly 5 decades. Ruth founded the Pan-Pacific Performing Arts Group, bringing Chinese artists to the U.S., mostly from Taiwan. In 1987, they held a 2-day Moon Festival at the new Performing Arts Center.
Ruth says, why don't we get that center and highlight Asian culture in a series of events? And so the Performing Arts Center said, okay, we'll give you a weekend, because they were just getting started. And so they could give us a weekend. And who could say no to Ruth? And we sold out all of those nights.
I think it's the International Dance and Music Festival. That was the biggest one. That's bringing the best from around the world to our center. And at that one, we sold out 3,000 seats. I had to find them different place when they are performing, right in San Francisco and New York. Then I brought them over here. This one is given to me. Leadership Award, Opera Pacific Opera Company.
In 1983, Ruth organized the first opera ball at the Disneyland Hotel, where attendees were treated to a gourmet dinner, entertainment, and dancing. The opera ball that Ruth started became an annual fundraiser for Opera Pacific. Opera star Luciano Pavarotti was a big attraction for the Performing Arts Center.
Very, very hard to get him because he used to like to bring his cars, so it's lost some money. And so a group of us work hard, have raised some money to bring him over here.
Over 2 decades, the Santa Ana-based opera company featured a range of operas at the Orange County Performing Arts Center, including renditions of La Boheme, Carmen, and Aida.
Ruth said one day, Anne, I've made a lot of money helping raise money. Now it's time for me to work on the Asian community.
There were quite a few older Chinese that couldn't speak English. And they were very lonely. And some of them, they probably don't even have close relatives. So they thought it would be good for us to form a senior center.
They come to OCCC saying, let us organize an organization to care for our seniors.
And I thought about it. Both of my daughters, they were debutantes. Because before this, I was helping the Orange County Symphony. I said, well, Chinese, they are different. They honor the son, but they never honor the girl. Maybe we're going to do something different. This time we're going to honor the girl.
And Ruth came up with this idea, and she sold everybody else that we could do this.
Miss Christine Marr.
It's nice to be able to go out there and have your parents be proud of you. I don't think there's anything more fulfilling than seeing your parents proud of you.
Young girls in white gowns, young men in tuxedos, and very proud fathers. It could be nothing else but a debutante ball, that old tradition of Western society where daughters are presented to the world.
Most people didn't know anything about debutante balls. I happen to know it. It's a very Southern Eastern thing. But she said, I think we could do it, and I think we can raise money. And we did.
You be really careful who you bring in as escort, because that's very important. Each girl will have 2 escorts. And these boys, they are coming from outstanding school.
It really light up like fire, because you just tell the fathers, look, you still have a chance to have your daughter around your arm, walking to be presented. A few years later, she's going to be on somebody else's farm.
The debutante ball was called the Winter Blossom Ball, and it was geared towards young Chinese American women.
I believe we have over 450 people at tonight's function, and this is our 2nd annual Winter Blossom Ball.
Winter means old. Blossom is the young. Winter Blossom Ball. Because it's the first ever Chinese debutante ball, we got so much publicity. It brought in $100,000 profit, and that opened the door to the senior center.
Frank's son was co-president of the Asian American Senior Citizen Service Center from 1993 to 2000.
Many of them say AASCH become their home away from home.
In Santa Ana, the Senior Center provides many key services.
It is the only Asian senior center in whole Orange County.
We have volunteers help them make phone calls, write letters, and so forth. So that was a big help for the immigration seniors.
We have classes, in English. We have class on computer. So, and they also take them on trips and luncheon for them and different things, And we were dreaming maybe one of these days we could even, raise enough money, we would find a place for them to live in.
Over the years, the Winter Blossom Debutante Ball evolved to become the Young Ambassador Ball.
We do a ball to honor outstanding young women, young ladies. And that brought in even more money. That one brought in $200,000.
We thought that there's a lot of potential in our young community. And, why focus just on girls? Because we had a lot of outstanding young people. And we thought, well, getting away from kind of not so much the beauty pageant idea of it, but the idea of recognizing and honoring our young people that we thought had great potential and were contributing to society. In addition to the debutante ball, we auctioned off a dinner. And we said it's $100 per person. That was a lot of money back then. And I said, Ruth, how are we going to pull it off? She says, we're going to have this dinner at my house, and the people who come are going to pay $100, and we are going to serve them a gourmet dinner. But we had to make money. So at Costco, you can buy that wine in the plastic, in the paper box. I don't know if you remember. So Ruth said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to get out my very best pitchers, and we're going to pour that box wine into the pitchers. And then we're going to serve it with great elegance. I just learned a lot that Ruth says, presentation is very important. So we'd set the table out with all her china and her silver and everything. And people were just thrilled.
My mom cares about the strength of the Chinese community. Her whole life, she has worked towards building the community for Chinese people in Southern California. If I learned anything from my mother that has been valuable in my life, one of them has certainly been the ability to talk to others, to try to understand how others feel, what others are thinking, and how to reach what is important to them and think about others first.
The fact that she achieved such incredible success, building the Performing Arts Center, that's just incredible.
I was very impressed how hardworking she was. I mean, stayed up all night long on her manual electric typewriter, typing up flyers for all her different charitable events.
My mother's had always been a huge dreamer, whether it be dreaming of the Performing Arts Center or dreaming of raising an opera for Orange County or building a symphony or building a culture club or a senior citizen center. She's always been a big dreamer, and it's easy to dream, but then to execute that, to be able to build a consensus among people who have the ability to raise the money, to make the plans and do it. I have many memories growing up of I'm waking up in the middle of the night as a child, hearing my mother on the phone saying to some friend, I have this amazing idea. We can pull this off and raise this much money. We just need to do this, this, and this, and we can do it. And she'd be so excited. She would pull it off 9 times out of 10.
Boy, it's cold. I walk between 6 and 7 o'clock every night. Walk an hour. At that time, I also see many neighbors walking their dogs. I really like this house because it's not too big for me. I'm close to Larry, Anytime I need him, I say, Larry,
Printer's out.
My computer not working. On your way home, please come in and fix it. And he catch really good fish. Invite me to dinner all the time. Another thing is that Day is so wonderful. Anytime I need help with this house, he's here. He helped me fix it. Day is so talented. He could do everything.
It really enjoyed my psychology and sociology courses.
Meilon got an MBA from University of Southern California and began to work in consulting for employee compensation design.
And then ultimately I started my own company doing this kind of consulting, and I still consult in this arena today. I have worked with companies in almost every industry, from agriculture to high technology to retail to wholesale to nonprofit. There is almost no industry in which I have not consulted.
I enrolled at USC as a public relations major because I'm thinking to myself, public relations? Yeah, that's what Mom does. It wasn't until I started classes at USC that I learned that public relations is a journalism degree. You have to write. I have to write? I only lasted 1 semester at USC. The second semester, I went on the Semester at Sea program, a 100-day academic voyage, probably where I really got exposure to international travel. Once I dropped out, then, much to their dismay, I shacked up with my boyfriend and moved into a studio apartment on the Balboa Peninsula and got a job, guess what? Working in a grocery store. Turns out to be my dream job.
Claudia got a real estate license in Orange County. She married Tom Mueller, and together they had 2 children, Lisa and Derek.
When Lisa and Derek were born, I pretty much got what I wanted. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and really enjoy my children. And just like Mom's example, I spaced Lisa and Derek 4 years apart. So I was able to really, really enjoy my children. And I was the only one to give my parents grandchildren for 15 years.
I'm a physical medicine, rehabilitation, and pain specialist.
Larry graduated from medical school at UC Irvine, the same school as his father, Locke.
At the time I applied to medical school, I wasn't even 100% certain that medicine was for me. Coming out of Stanford, I spent the summer in marine biology first. But after spending a year in the cold water, I dreamed it'd be like Jacques Cousteau, who I loved all the Jacques Cousteau specials, be in tropical seas, beautiful coral and fish. But it wasn't like that in Monterey. It was cold, it was murky, it was difficult, and not nearly as satisfying as my dreams. I decided, well, if it's meant to be, I'll apply to medical school. I'm only gonna apply to a couple in California because I want to be out here with my friends. So I applied them, and it was kind of a shock when I got in. Maybe a year of not being uncertain whether this is really for me, it very quickly became something that I realized this is for me. When I started my clinical years and I started actually treat patients rather than just deal with basic science. From that start in acupuncture, I guess I continued going into interventional pain management. So thanks, Dad.
Being the youngest, I definitely had its advantages. My father had become a lot more successful financially by the time I was born. And they had a lot more practice at parenting, learning the psychology of how to influence your children in a positive manner. He loved to wake up at the crack of dawn, very goal-oriented, always kept index cards in his pocket, a little to-do list of priorities for his business investments. And also, he was always making plans and dreams for professional success for his children. His real passion was real estate investments. So I think because he knew that he didn't really have good access to the legal system, he had some incentive and thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if we had a lawyer in the family? I was good at history and social sciences, and so I seemed to be open to that possibility. So, okay, great, so it's perfect, why don't you pursue this?
After graduating from Brown University, Boise got a Harvard Law degree. Today, Boise practices real estate law at Mayer Brown and splits his time between New York and Los Angeles.
I'm glad because actually it turned out to be a very good fit for my career because I've been doing it for almost 26, 27 years now.
My first husband, Stephen Batchelor, was an avid skier. And we met in college. And he said to me, oh, we're going to go skiing at Lake Tahoe. We're going to go to Heavenly Valley. You got to come. Follow me. That was my introduction to skiing. Of course, I was black and blue after the first day. And then later on, I met my second husband, my current husband, the better husband. We met on the ski slopes.
I'm David Mashaw.
And you are?
Naylon's husband.
Dave and I met in Snowmass, Colorado, when his ski club came from Wisconsin and my ski club came from Orange County, California. We both competed in ski races that week, and we both won our races. And he won me over by saying, can I tune your skis for you?
Being a physician is kind of boring. You spend a lot of time in the hospital. And just one day, I remember I was a chief resident in an extended care nursing facility at the VA hospital. One day, the elevator opened up to my unit, and out comes this beautiful woman, Asian woman, with this red mini skirt, and that was Lynn.
Lynn Ding, yes. I'm married to Ruth's third child, Larry. I met Larry on the 3rd floor. It's right outside internal medicine, and I was training with another pharmacist, and so he introduced us. And I remember the very first question Larry popped out was, what's the best Chinese restaurant around here? And I was just like, gosh, I don't know. I just really liked his personality, and we started dating, yeah.
Larry and Lynn have 3 children together, Lance, Cammie, and Emily.
She is an amazing, loving, caring grandmother. I would drop off the kids and she would cook them dinner, spoiling them with desserts. I mean, just loving them, caring for them. She goes out of her way and just be with them and engage in their daily activities, their school. that's the side of her that not too many people know.
We do a lot of eating together, a lot of walks down by the beach together. And whenever she has another community event, we, of course, we're in great support of her.
I see her as my own mom. It's like my best friend, and she's just, I just love her. What can I say? And I was telling Larry, I said, your mom was the one that sealed the deal with you, you know? Having a mom like that, yeah, I'll take the ring, yes. I'll take the ring because of your mom. Just kidding.
My dad decided to take up skiing, and he loved it. And so he actually bought a condo at Mammoth Mountain, California for the family. And so we went on ski trips with him to not only to Mammoth, but to Aspen, Colorado, and to Park City, Utah, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We used to go to Mexico and fish for big game fish, giant mahi-mahis and marlin. And of course, my brother Larry, now he is the fisherman.
When I was in residency in San Antonio in physical medicine rehabilitation, I actually brought my boat to San Antonio because it's only 3 hours from the coast in Corpus Christi. And my father at that time was retired. He was traveling in his own camper RV, which was a Toyota camper. And I took him on a fishing trip to the Gulf of Mexico. And I remember it was a really rough day. I was kind of like disappointed because my father was getting on in years and he couldn't handle the rough weather as well as he used to. But he went out there, did not complain. We went about 15 miles out and he hooked into a blackfin tuna and we landed together. He got tired out, so I helped him finish the fight. But I have a picture of that, and that really is strong in my memory.
This was the gathering at Dad's memorial service in Garden Grove. So everyone gathered for that. That's nice. I forget that we had that photo. And we were able to take Dad there to see it. And we wheeled him up there to see it. And
He saw it.
he saw it.
My dad's great legacy was to buy 100 acres in Palmdale with my mom. And it was vacant and undeveloped for 50 years. And then finally, after all that patience, the area developed enough so a shopping center developer was interested in buying. So this is all of us visiting the recent opening of the Super Targets. And there's Mom pushing the Super Target cart in the vacant land that she held for 50 years. My mother took us to Aida, both my brother and I. And I think we were just like dying to get out after the first act. I think I kind of crushed my mom because, you know, she had spent so much of her time building this incredible performing arts center in Orange County, fundraising for the opera, and here are her own kids like, oh, can we leave after the first act? But you know, it's something like that. You have to have a core level of competence and knowledge before you can start appreciating it. One of the great things about my parents and Ruth is they've always been so supportive about my partners in life at the time, whether men or women. Eric's my current partner, and she's been so supportive, and we had a wonderful time, you know, roaming around London and Italy this last summer. We've taken some amazing trips, not only New York, but Lincoln Center, American Ballet Theater, New York City Ballet, Metropolitan Opera.
My name is Eric Leek, and I am Ruth Tang's youngest son, Boise's partner. We have been together, it'll be 9 years this July. We went to Italy to see the Verona Opera Festival, which was the main focus of the trip. But I can tell that because of his love of music and ballet and arts, they have a very deep connection there.
Most recently this year, we went to the Verona Opera Festival in Verona, and then we saw Aida again 30, 40 years later from the first time I saw it.
She has just said repeatedly she had never seen an Aida performance like that, which we're sitting in the pit where the gladiators used to compete.
The stage was more than 3 times the size of Metropolitan Opera. And you could have 200 people on the stage at one time. Horses, singer, and musician. All that, you know, it's unimaginable. How they're able to tear everything down and put on the scene for the next day, I don't know.
The operas were very well done. Ruth was thrilled.
I met Boise at the very beginning of freshman year at Brown, and we became fast friends. So yeah, I met Ruth, when I was probably 18. She just really has always had this love for the arts that I think she's cultivated, and she's always kept that flame alive, which I really respect and admire. And she's done so much. You can see the impact that she's made in her community and her family. So I have been to Seacrest many times. And now I'll go with, my friends. I think before I would always go with Boise or with Ruth. Every time I go there, I think about her contributions and how it may not be there if it weren't for her.
Over the years, Ruth received many awards for her contributions to the Chinese American and arts communities in Southern California. She has received honors from the Opera Pacific to the Orange County Board of Supervisors, the Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Los Angeles, to the 1981 Sweetheart for the Arts. In 2011, Ruth was given the Local Hero Award.
And we're looking for candidates for the Local Heroes Award for the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And so they had different categories, and one was the arts. And I thought, cannot imagine that anybody would be more qualified than Ruth Tang.
I am the founding president and member of the Orange County Chinese Cultural Club. I have been very fortunate, very thankful to be an American citizen now. And so we want to give back to the community.
In 2018, Ruth was nominated by California State Senator John Moorlach for the Woman of the Year Award in recognition of her service to the state.
He brought this to my birthday and gave it to me.
John Moorlach spoke at Ruth's 90th birthday.
So Ruth Tang is the 37th Senate District Woman of the Year. Happy 90th birthday, and I'm looking forward to coming back in 10 years.
Many of Ruth's beloved family and friends were in attendance at her 90th birthday.
Happy birthday. It's our privilege to come. Ruth, this has been a long time of celebrating your birthday, from your 75th to your 90th.
In 2020, it was announced that Ruth would receive the prestigious Ellis Island Medal of Honor Award. Her friend Charlie Zhang nominated her. He had received it himself in 2014. The award honors distinguished immigrants and their descendants who have contributed to the fabric of American society.
Medalists, it's now my privilege to present you all with the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. It is my hope that this medal inspires you to continue your amazing work to build a more inclusive and peaceful world.
Ruth Tang Ding. Ms. Ding has been an activist as well as a promoter of the arts and Chinese culture for over 55 years. She is the founding member of several arts organizations across America. Ruth Tang Ding.
I just feel I'm extremely fortunate. I thank God every day.
So when I come to visit, this is it. Beautiful.
What she doesn't give me credit for is her social interactions and being continually busy and rewarding social activities. That gives her a very positive boost, not just emotionally, but also physically.
One of the things my mom has said, she believes her children are her greatest accomplishment. And so she has been an inspiration to us. She's been a huge support to us throughout our lives in making us who we are. And she's done it all with love in her heart.
I think they all have their own talent, and I think it's up to the Lord. You know, I just the mother to my children. I do my best to, help them out and try to give them a good education, and I just hope and pray for the best for them.
How do you hope to be remembered by them?
Just remember that I was not too bad. Oh gosh, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we did have quite a good time. I'm very fortunate to have wonderful children and a wonderful husband. Yeah, I can't ask for more.